Hello, Grafton. I'm Alex Renham with Unleashed Tiger, and I'm here with Jim Morgan and Becky Bartlett, who are running for the at-large seat on the City Council. Jim, Becky, thanks for coming on the program.
Thanks for
I,
having us.
yes, thank you for having me.
Great. Well, let's start out just sharing a bit about your background and what motivated you to run for City Council. And Becky, we'll start with you with this question.
Okay, so I'm Becky Bartlett. I have lived in Grafton for the past 33 years, ever since I married my husband. Before that, I lived in Taylor County. So I've been here my whole life. And I have worked here and raised my kids here. And I love this. I love the county, the state. I love the city. I like living in the city. I actually am very happy with my experience of living in the city limits. And I just occasionally have ideas I'd like to share with the community from time to time. And I think the best way for me to do that would be to take a turn, helping to serve the community by being on the city council. And I think really honestly, everybody who wants to serve their city should at some time try to be on city council and learn how city is run and how they can help.
Great. Thanks, Becky. Jim, do you want to share a little bit about your background and what motivated you to run?
Yes, my background. I was born and raised in Grafton, born in 1955, so you can count on your fingers there. I graduated in 73, left Grafton, and I think I graduated Memorial Day, early June of 73. In August of 73, I left. Went to school in New York, was a Navy ROTC, went in the Marine Corps, spent 24 years in the Marine Corps, most of that in Southern California. That includes reserve time. Lived in Southern California. Um, and Don and I, my wife is from Grafton, and we decided to move back in 1998. I had a deployment overseas, moved the wife and kids back in 98. I went overseas, came back, retired out of the Marine Corps, did all my paperwork at Camp Pendleton, and drove across country to be with my family in West Virginia, who had been living here for about a year while I was overseas. And then ran for city council. 2000 to 2008, I worked on the railroad. I worked on the railroad during that time. One of the reasons I gave it up is because trying to be on city council and work a full-time job, particularly on the railroad where you're on call, it's very difficult to devote the time that you really want to devote to being on city council. So now I'm getting ready to retire. I'll be retiring in a few months. And I thought, actually, several people asked me if I would consider running again. So I said yes. I feel that the city's on a very good path. I think we started that back in 2000. I was on that council where we made some changes in the city manager, that kind of thing, and it's been a good move. And Grafton is on the move. And see, that's my history. And why am I running? Because I think I bring a lot of experience, both as an employee, as a supervisor, both in the military and in the civilian world. And I've been on a lot of different committees and boards and that type of thing, which we'll talk about later, I guess. But has given me experience with working with a broad range of people and trying to, as they say, bring people together. Sometimes a difficult task.
Great. Thanks, Jim. We're going to stay with you, and I'd like to talk a little more about what you view as the most critical responsibilities of a city council member, and how do you envision a successful term in office if you're fortunate enough to win?
Okay, critical. I think it's critical that we meet the basic needs of a city: law enforcement, fire protection, garbage pickup, all those things that, I mean, some places say, what, we're going to be a sanctuary city and that kind of, that's not really for a city council to take care of, do. The main thing is take care of all the basics. And then how can we encourage citizens to participate in the local government and promote organizations that want to make the community better, the surrounding area better? How can we work with them to maybe give them some seed money? Let's take a look at what we have. We have to stay with it. We have to be physically responsible, though. You have to be physically responsible with the citizens' money and how much money we bring in. And I think I bring that to the table. It's being physically responsible and meeting the basic needs. That's the most critical. There are some things that I am concerned about. Homelessness, which we never had that before. We didn't even have that when I was on council last time. It's not as big a problem as it is in many cities, but there is a little bit of that here, and it can grow pretty quickly. It's like your health. You can be going along thinking everything's going well, and all of a sudden, wham, you have a heart attack. You just kind of fall off the edge of the cliff. And I think the same thing can happen with homelessness. It can lead to burglaries, defecating on city streets, or just harassing people, panhandling. I think Morgantown just passed an ordinance on panhandling, and we don't have that problem in Grafton that I'm aware of. But I mean, those things can come about if you don't nip it in the bud, so to speak. So I think homelessness is one. Making sure the fire department and the police department. I have some ideas on the police department and the fire department. Certainly, a town of our size trying to maintain the proper salary to pay those guys is a problem. And I can go on and on and on, but I was told by all of my family, I will go into great detail, so keep it short. So I'm going to shut up. If you have more questions, I'll gladly, what do I want to embellish on all that, go further into it, because I have all kinds of ideas, but you said yourself like 20 minutes, so I could talk for the whole 20 minutes. Let me just shut up.
Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. Becky, most critical responsibilities you think for the city council and how you envision a successful term in office?
So I think the most critical issues would be the ones that make sure that the residents have what they need in regards to like municipalities and what they need in a municipal setting. And I do think the city of Grafton does a good job with that. I have always been pretty happy with living in the city and the convenience that provides. And as somebody who lived in the country, I can tell you that we do have more conveniences living here in town, and I think they do a good job of that. But I also talk to people who run businesses, and they have concerns that maybe, they're not always being heard as far as businesses and what businesses need in regards to the city. In staying in business and doing a good job to provide services for the people that live here. And another thing that I'd like to work on, obviously, is recreation. I think that he's right. We do seem to be going in a good direction. And yet there's just a couple ideas that I have with kind of some opportunities. I always think they have great festivals here, the Spirit of Grafton Festival, as well as anything that we do with the schools in the fall, the homecoming and that. And so I think we have great handle on those things. I have ideas for maybe how to make it better. And I work closely here with the students who give me ideas about what they would like to see here in the city of Grafton. I have been talking to Mrs. Thompson, who's a council member, Diana Thompson, and about some kids who wanted a skate ramp and how hard that would be to get a skate ramp or two put in here in Grafton. So those kinds of recreational things. And lastly, I have been working at the high school for 24 years now, and we have a pro officer here through the city of Grafton. And I think that the link that could be created between the pro officer and city council communicating might be better facilitated by having somebody who's available to help kind of monitor that and push that along.
Great. Thanks, Becky. And we're going to stay with you for the next one, Becky. And if you describe some specific actions or approaches that you believe are essential in being an effective leader within the city government, and how you've demonstrated these in your past experiences.
I think probably the most important thing is communication. And nowadays, that is huge. I mean, obviously, we have so many communicate with people. How do you communicate with people and not let it dominate you in a way that is actually almost counterintuitive? So opportunities for people to leave messages and send information and say, hey, this is a concern I have. how can you help me address it? And I know that they do have an opportunity at the city council meetings for people to speak up, come down and express their interests, their concerns. And I think that's great. But I think too that people should be able to email, try to get in touch with you within reason, obviously not interrupt your family dinner, and but within reason, to be able to communicate with you and say, hey, I'll get back to you on that. Let me get a hold of you. And so we can discuss these issues. And lastly, I think being able to look ahead, if that makes sense, look for the future and not just be not be just stuck in the past. I love the past here. I love our history here. I'm completely enamored with our natural wonders. Anybody who knows me will tell you that those are my greatest interests. But I think too, we have to be looking forward. And a lot of times people will say to me, oh, what Grafton needs this and this. And I'll say, tell me what Grafton really needs, what you really cannot get, what you really do not have. And it's hard for them to come up with sometimes ideas because they tend to just kind of get into the mindset that they don't have. So I would like for them to be able to say, when I experience something or when I have something come up, I'd like to be able to contact you and leave information, even if it's just through message or writing or email or something like that.
Yep, thank you. Jim, specific actions or approaches you believe are essential to being effective and how you've demonstrated those in the past?
Well, leadership, that's a good one. I've served on city council before. I've served on homeowners association boards of directors. I have served on committees where we have selected junior officers for promotion. So I've served on promotion boards. I've served on promotion boards for enlisted men in the Marine Corps, and all that leadership. One, leadership's where people will follow you. They will go to the ends of the earth if they know that you care about them and you care about the city. Now we can come up with ideas. And actually, she mentioned something that I thought about, the school resource. I called it a school resources officer. I think she called it some pro or something. But the idea of having an officer in the school and having that communication between the school system and the city council or government is a good idea. The idea of violence in the school, when I was in school, it just wasn't heard of. And I actually can give you names of classmates of mine who used to actually carry knives in the school, but we never ever even considered somebody pulling a knife on somebody or anything like that. And everybody, myself included, I carried a loaded rifle, for crying out loud, in the trunk of my car, which I was one of the few people to have a car. So it's just completely changed. I mean, but I think having a school resource officer is a good idea. I do want to encourage, and I want to talk to the citizens. That's one of the reasons why now that I'm retiring, getting out and I think Becky hit it real well there when she said, people will say, well, what can we do about downtown? And that's what I've heard a lot of. And that's a difficult one because if it were easy, it would already be solved. And they're older buildings. And if you want to put a business in there, the parking is limited. The buildings themselves are old, which makes them very drafty, difficult to heat. I mean, the expense of having a business in there, it gets to the point where your return on your investment is just, it's not there. Perhaps being a bedroom community, I've thought of what can we work with the county, with other counties, other cities. What are they doing? What are some possibilities? I think it was Alexander Graham Bell, I believe. Maybe it was somebody else. But they said when they invented the light bulb, it wasn't that I failed 999 times. It's just I got closer to the correct way of doing it. And sometimes we come up with ideas and we can try them, and they may not all. Matter of fact, the majority of them may strike out, but you can hit on a few, and that's a good thing. And I think we need the citizens of Grafton to feel like they can come in, offer their idea, and even though I may not think it's a great idea, hey, let's if there's other people who feel the way you do, let's encourage that. If we have to try and find some seed money to get things going a little bit, can we do that? And can we maybe get some private funds or something to help seed that? Those are all good things, or grant money or something. And I don't know how much grant money is out there, but I still like, here's what it really is, Alex, and I think Becky would agree with this. The city of Grafton belongs to all of us, and we want it to be a place that people want to live there. They raise their families there. We finished raising our children here, and it's not perfect, but it's not a bad place. And we chose to come back here. We chose that. And I could have, actually, I turned down a job when I was in California. I had a chance to go with Lockheed Martin to Orlando, Florida. And so I was going to move from Disneyland to Disney World, Orange County, California to Orange County, Florida. And we went down and I went down like 3 or 4 times to meet the people I'd be working with. They flew us down. Lockheed flew me down there. They flew Don and I down there. We looked at homes. We were going to be living close to the golfer. What's the golfer's name? Tiger Woods. We were going to be living close to Tiger Woods. Lockheed Martin was going to buy our home, the whole bit. And we said, no, thank you. They were closing our facility in California. And I was going to go to work for General Dynamics in San Diego. But we thought about Florida. We said no, and we came to West Virginia. So I had a job offer in San Diego, California, and I had a job offer in Orlando, Florida. And I said no to both. And I had no job offer in Grafton. And I don't know whether I was just going through a midlife crisis or what I was doing, but here we came because we brought the kids to the grandparents. And that's another story in itself.
Well, we're glad you're here, Jim. I think one of the questions, you may have just answered it, which is, and I'd like to stay with you on the next question, which is, what's your vision, kind of on the macro, your vision for the city's future, and then what tangible outcomes could we look to signify success of that vision?
Well, I think being a bedroom community. Now, there can be some businesses here, but there's certainly been growth around us. If you look at the state of West Virginia, the Eastern Panhandle has done well. North Central West Virginia here with Morgantown and Bridgeport. And that's another thing. Bridgeport was smaller than Grafton when I was a kid, and they had a stockyard over there, and you could smell Bridgeport before you could actually see Bridgeport when I was a kid. But they have done well. They've had the right kind of leadership. And I think we could be a bedroom community that people are proud of. And I think, we're there to we can just make it better. And I think there's an opportunity maybe for some tourism. We have a lake, we have a river. Can we do more with our river? Being able to have access to the river downtown and doing something with the homeless people which gather right now under the bridge. I'd like to see us be a place where people, if they come to Morgantown, they find a little community just south of Morgantown called Grafton, that they go, hey, that's kind of as Jim Justice would say, a diamond in the rough, a diamond in the rough that people kind of discover.
That's good stuff. Thanks, Jim. Becky, same question to you. Vision for the city's future, and what tangible outcomes we might see to signify that success?
So I've always liked the city's slogan, actually, that's on the signs coming into Grafton that say something along the lines of treasuring our past and embracing our future. And I think that's actually the key, is have an amazing past. I mean, when my kids do research and they find out some things they didn't know about Grafton's past, they're always pleasantly surprised. And yet, how do we keep that past and still be able to focus on the future and not be constantly living in the past? I mean, some examples are, I remember when we were doing one of the murals and some people said, oh, let's do a mural of Anna Jarvis or a train. And I said, I totally love that we are the home of Mother's Day, and I love our railroad heritage, so many things like that. But let's not do a mural on Anna Jarvis and things that are already done, and instead be looking at some of the ways that, you know, we look online and we see these great futuristic murals, more current, what do I want to say, artists that are more with the times, maybe trendy even, and incorporate some of that into what we already have here, which is a great foundation in the past. We have a great Mother's Day Shrine tourist attraction. He's exactly right. How many towns have their state park and a gorgeous lake, probably the prettiest lake? Don't tell the people I said this in Summersville, but probably one of the nicest lakes in West Virginia, at least in North Central West Virginia. And people coming here for it and still able to maintain that small town feel and not trying to be the city next door. We don't want to be, or we would be part of the city next door. We're here because we like the way that that it still stays small and feels small town. I do know that we have we do have things that we can address, some concerns that we can address that can make things better. But I cannot stress enough that I really think the people who have been working on the city, and I'm not just talking about city council and city officials, I'm talking about local community people. People are doing wonderful things with the Arts Council downtown. And, you know, with it might not always be my kind of thing, but I welcome them. If you can get a group of people to come and enjoy what you're doing, then please keep doing it and tell people how they can help you keep doing that. And I think that's the key to being future, looking ahead, that kind of futuristic, you know. A lot of people are like, you know, we don't want skate ramps because we already have a problem with, you know, some teens being, what's the word I want to say, being kind of rough down on some of the city streets. Are saying we've got a playground and the teens are sometimes rough. But I think that part of the solution for teens is to give them facilities like skate parks and pools with a cover over it, you know, indoor pools for not just young but old alike, and then say it is your civic responsibility to take care of this. And I think for me, that's one of the things, one of the projects I really want to take on is helping kids find how they can be taking care of what they're given in this community, this little tiny community of ours, how they can make it better, how they can work closely with people here to make it the city they want it to be. And probably more than anything, for me, I like the Make It Shine campaign that used to be going on through the governor's office. And I don't know anybody who has taken that on here locally. I don't even know that it still exists. I looked it up. I didn't find anything, but I know they have other campaigns for how to keep your community clean. And I would like to incorporate kids into that. How do you help keep your community clean as people have done before you? So for me, that's what the future looks like. The future looks like getting young people involved.
It makes sense. Becky, we're going to stay with you and talk about opportunities and challenges. And we've got plenty of both of those. Let's talk about challenges first, and really just looking for one specific local challenge that you believe needs immediate attention and how you might plan to address it if elected to council.
Cleanup. I walk through the city of Grafton 3 days a week. Sometimes I walk through the state parks and not necessarily down in the city of Grafton. But as I walk, I can see styrofoam cups over the side of the bridge. I can see dog feces all over the sidewalks that people have to dodge. I can see the front street. You couldn't ask for a better improvement in the last 5 years than that front street sidewalk. Amazing. That it finally got done, because everybody knows that was going on for a long time. But then what happened was people who were sitting in those benches dropped trash. So how do we educate people that, hey, littering is real? We need receptacles, and then we need people saying, we'd like you, even if it's not your trash, to try to help pick it up and get it to that receptacle. Then also, I don't know if you're familiar with the REAP program. I know the first part of it is rehabilitation, environment. I think their word protection is in there, but I'm not real sure what the A is. But working with REAP about stuff that is washing down into our river, because we have a lot of people who ride the river through tubing. I think they're called float trips. We have people who ride the river for fishing. We have people who just like to go to the launch pads and fish. And we have, my husband works for the CSX, and he's working under the bridge, and he's like, you can't believe the amount of trash that is going into the Taggart River at this time.
Sure.
And I think getting kids involved in clean up that REAP program and whatever other programs the governor's office has available to us to bring to here to Grafton and say, hey, let's all see if we can get some things cleaned up.
Great. Thanks, Becky. Jim, one issue that you specifically see needs addressed and immediate attention, how you might do so on council?
Well, I agree with Becky. I thought the kind of the rundown, dirty look of the community, and I agree with what she's saying. And I would throw out there that when I was student body president, my senior year of high school back in the day, we actually the high school, the Key Club, and we just had the volunteers from the student body. We actually signed up with the Army Reserve Unit here, an MP unit in Grafton, and we went out and picked up trash all along the river and along the streets. So I think getting the young people involved is absolutely. I agree with that. I think homelessness, while it's not, I personally haven't had a big problem. I do run into some homeless people, particularly over on the west side there around the Circle K or down by Gumps. I see some there. That's an area that I feel like we could take a closer look at as far as a challenge to the city of Grafton, which kind of goes along with cleaning up the city itself. And I think that's a leadership thing. As I said, the rundown, dirty look of the community. If you go someplace, it's like when I was overseas in a war-torn country. The people that live there, when they see the buildings that are blowing out, and the electricity doesn't work, or it comes on and works for an hour or two, then it goes off. They don't have indoor heating, indoor plumbing, and they accept where they live, and they almost give up hope. And I sometimes feel that that's what we face here. And there's a lot of negativity. And then to make things worse is we just always have gray skies. It always rains in West Virginia. It's a gray sky a lot. We don't get nearly the sunshine that we get in Southern California or Florida, or that kind of thing. And I think that kind of adds to that seasonal sadness, or whatever they call that. So we need to encourage our citizens to take a little extra pride. And when the city does put forth, like putting the sidewalks in along Front Street, that is nice, because I work at CSX with her husband, and I like her husband. I work with him, and he's a good man. I really do like him. And you can see where there's just too much littering. When I was on council, we picked up hot water tanks, washers, dryers, particularly tires, all over the place. The road that goes out to Sunset Terrace below this city hospital, the road that goes out there, down over in that woods, even on Washington Street, up above the post office, there's a little bit of a woods just between Washington and Washington and Boyd. If you go further out above the old junior high, there was a woods. That's Wilford and Francis Street. There was a woods in there, but there were places where we just found unbelievable stuff where people would throw it away. And I think that mindset to some degree is going away, but it's still there, and we need to work on that. So, and the homeless, I would like to talk to some other communities. And I'm really not up on the speed on the law, just what the police officers are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, and that type of thing. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of programs available for homelessness, and from my perspective, it looks like the homelessness, the people that choose to be homeless, and they have mental illness issues. or they have drug issues. And usually it's a combination of the two. I honestly think it's a combination of both drug usage and mental illness. And those are the people that, because there is help available, and I'm not sure legally what all we can do on all of that, but I think we need to be doing something where it can definitely get to be worse. That would be the challenge.
It makes sense. So on the other side, Jim, will stay with you on this opportunities. And by the way, you're the trying quote that I think that's Edison who has that quote.
I think it is
And
Edison. You're right.
so let's look at opportunities. There's lots of things to try here, but what's one opportunity you might target that you think we could take advantage of as a city?
Well, I think the opportunity with using, as I briefly mentioned earlier, using the state park and the river. I think having access to the river, more access, and having some grassy areas or places. I know we worked on the park down by the pool when I was on council before, and we made a lot of improvements there. Because when you build something like that, believe it or not, you just don't do regular plumbing, because if you do regular plumbing, people actually will come in there and tear it off the wall and that kind of thing, which is terrible. So you spend a little extra money to almost make it like they have in prisons. I hate to say that, but you almost have to make it indestructible, which costs more money. So I think opportunity-wise, we can, like I said, I think making it more appealing as a bedroom community as a start, and build off of like Bridgeport and Morgantown and Fremont, and we can become a community where outsiders will want to come in, and that will increase property values, and they'll bring in some new ideas and some and reinforce the values that we have here, which are good. I mean, they're good family values. That's what I would.
Makes sense. Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Becky, one opportunity you want to look to take advantage of, maybe?
So I would like to really work to get a hold of the governor's office and find out about what I would call cleanup campaigns. You know, there used to be these public service announcements that when I was a kid, some which are obviously now we know are culturally in a cultural appropriation, but these cleanup campaigns about, you know, the Indian who had the tear, who was like, you know, he watched the earth being destroyed, or the give a hoot, don't pollute. I don't know what happened to these particular campaigns, even the Make It Shine campaign. A lot of people are familiar with that, and the Adopt a Highway program. I know that when I was the NHS co-advisor here, we did find out that the NHS had adopted the highway that we ourselves probably contribute the litter to, which is from here at the high school down to Circle K, and reminding those kids, hey, that's your highway that you adopted, and we need to get out there and clean it up. And then additionally, when I was working as part of the Turn This Town Around, there were yearly cleanups where we would arrange for pickers from the Department of Highways, the picking squeezer things that you squeeze and pick up trash with, the bags, the vests, and we would go around Grafton and clean up. I would like to see that happening again now that COVID has kind of died down. I know that during COVID, we were not getting out and picking up trash because we were trying not to, what was it called? We were trying to socially distance and stuff, but I'd like to see that stuff start again. And I'd like to really try to help educate people about ways, you know, what ways to keep things clean and to clean up, and the ad campaigns that I think have been lost, which are, you know, I don't think they call it give a hoot, don't pollute anymore, but really there's nothing like that out there. I'd also I would like to say, build on what's already happening. As he said, Grafton has been moving forward, and that's a great thing. And I want to see that momentum keep going. I think some people are at the reins and they even get tired and they are like, here's the baton, take it from here. And then, you know, other people have to come along and take our turns, helping to say, hey, let me try to help for a little while and see if I can add something to what we've already done. But we really have some great things happening here. two winters in a row now, I have asked some city officials, could we please have a glice skating rink? And that is a plastic skating rink. Actually, it's not real ice. And they said, if you could talk to city council people, and yet it's so hard for me to get to those city council people and get my ideas out. And I thought, it might just be a good opportunity for me to try to serve on city council, share ideas like that with the city council, and see if we can problem solve, if we can have something like that, and if we could problem solve with it. And last but not least, I was going to the meetings for, I'm not even sure what the group was called, but it's like a public recreation commission here in Taylor County that would involve the county, it would involve the school board, and it would involve the city, to try to get a pool with the top on it, because we have so many athletes who they don't have a place to swim. We have a swim team. A lot of people don't know that here at the high school. And they don't have a place to swim since AB closed. They don't have a place to practice their swimming. They're trying to facilitate their need through Fairmont, and I believe Bridgeport and Morgantown. And I know there's a group of people who are like, we need to get moving with getting, believe me when I say this, I do not mean something as big as the bridge complex, because I don't think that we should strive to be the city next door. I think we should strive to be what we are, and maybe just get a facility that has a top on it for aerobics, like water aerobics, also some kind of some therapy opportunities for people, and also for young people who need a place to swim within the city limits. And might I add, I would like it to be down close to where it is now, where it's easily accessible to Route 50, as opposed to putting it off on a county road somewhere like Grafton High School, and then having to deal with traffic and stuff. So these are all just ideas that I feel like I want to share with people. And I think the best way to share that is just to take a turn and serve and see what we can come up with.
Great. Awesome. Well, guys, we've got two more questions and then we're finished out. And these are really simple, short, easy questions. The first one, Becky, will stay with you. What makes Grafton awesome?
The past, it's got a great history. The future, I think it's progressing nicely, and it's got the opportunity for a great future. I think there's great people in Grafton too. I definitely think that we have the extra bonus of being one of the few small towns that has the Tiger Lake right outside of city limits and available to us. And the beauty of it, when I go walking and I'm up at Bluemont Cemetery and I look down in this town with the river running through it and the railroad running through it, with that nostalgia of the railroad, we have a really beautiful town with awesome people and some great resources. And I think we just need to capitalize on what we have.
That's great. Thanks. Jim, what makes Grafton awesome?
The people, absolutely. The people, the friendliness, like family. They can sometimes irritate you, but they're really just good, wholesome people. And I can say that when our children were little, now Jacob wasn't, he was only a year old when we left California, but letting our children play in the streets where we lived in Southern California, and we lived in nice areas. Okay, we lived in nice areas. And yet I still always kind of, in the back of my mind, there was a little bit of worry whenever they went anywhere. I didn't want to be a helicopter parent because I didn't grow up that way. I'm the youngest of 12. So my mother was like more than happy to, hey, get outside, But when we moved back to Grafton, they could get on their bikes and just ride all over Blueville and run around with their kids. And I never worried about it because we just don't have that, the child molester, that we don't have that kind of thing. We have a real community where people care, and they're good. They're just good, caring people. And I think that's what makes Grafton special. And I think having lived in Southern California as a father, and I know, and we lived in a great area. We always lived in great areas. I know how you feel And my wife felt the same way. Being able to just let your children play in the streets and run around with their friends, that right there is worth almost incalculable. It's really it's a wonderful thing, and I like that about Grafton, and we just need to like clean it up a little bit. It's not there. There's real potential here.
Yep. Yep.
There really is, and it's
Absolutely.
getting people to come on board, like Becky's talking about. I you know, I
Yep.
think she,
Well, guys, as is customary, we offer the candidate to have the last word. So, a brief last word from each of you. Jim, we'll start with you. What is it you'd like to leave the voters with before we close out today?
well, I guess I would tell you that I've served on city council before here in Grafton. Um, I have, and I think we made a lot of changes. If you look at how things were when we had city manager Donna Hoyler here, and then we hired Kevin Stead, and I was very instrumental in that. And the changes that we made then, like going after dilapidated, rundown properties, we started that. They allowed that home rule or the 1% extra sales tax, which Grafton is using to tear down properties, letting neighbors buy the property next door and extending their yard or building onto their homes or whatever. And I think that's been good. We started the sidewalk program. We started out because we wanted to just do along the Memorial Day parade route. Now, we always had dreams of getting other parts of the city, and you always have to live within your budget. I mean, if you have a budget at home, then you know how that is. It's like you have so much money for your mortgage or your rent, groceries, utility bills, and so if you want to do something else, then if you want to put money into this area over here, buying a car or whatever, then sometimes you have to cut over here. And so I definitely want to take a closer look at the budget and how we're spending things. Throw out some ideas on maybe can we cut a little bit here, come over here? Where do we need the funds? What's going on with the fire department, the paid fire department, the police department? Because those are basic services that a city is supposed to provide. The garbage collection. So we want to make sure we cover the basics. Okay, we have to cover our basic responsibilities. Then, and Becky even mentioned the pool. I thought about a covered pool. And one thing, having been a business where I made financial decisions, and I had every quarter, I had to meet the making profit. And boy, you haven't lived until you've had a job where every quarter your boss says, this is how much money you have to make. And my wife will tell you how I grind my teeth and things the last 2 weeks of the quarter when I wasn't sure if I was going to make it or not make it. And I did that for what, Don, about 11 years, 11, 12 years. I think one quarter I didn't make my quota one quarter. But when you deal with that kind of money like that, it's what can we afford? And I think I want to go back to, we don't have to do something Becky said, we don't have to do the Bridge Sports Complex. And she's right. But on the other hand, sometimes if you want to go from a Toyota Camry or a Toyota Corolla to a Toyota Camry, it's a little bit more money for the Camry than it is the Corolla. But it may be worth that extra money to do it. And I think sometimes that's what you have to kind of weigh out is maybe we do want a little bigger place to allow for future growth. Because the pool that we have, it's great for a few months out of the year, but it's only open, I think, from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And back when it was built, which was right after I graduated high school, they didn't really think about swim teams and that kind of thing and training year round. And so the pool was there for summertime. And then the rest of the time you worked or you went to school. Well, times have changed, and that's the only thing we can count on. And so having an indoor, and I've thought the very same thing, is there a way we can have an enclosed pool? And I don't know. I would just say that my experience, not only have I served on city council here, but I've also served on homeowner association boards. I've been on promotion boards. So I've had to work with others. I've also just been the individual leader. I've had employees that reported directly to me. I led Marines in combat. There's some leadership. Well, I don't know how to say this other than Leadership, when you're leading Marines, you got to know when to kick them in the ass and when to pat them on the back. Leadership is all about knowing your people and working with those people, and then leading from the front. The other thing is leading from the front.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, Jim. I appreciate it.
One other thing, I want to thank Becky for being willing to throw her hat in the ring, because people, it's easy to sit on the side and be critical, just be critical of everybody else. But the fact that you're willing to say, hey, you know what? I can sit here and criticize, but their willingness to climb into the ring and say, okay, I'm here now.
Yep.
I'll take you on. I'm going to take on these problems because someone has to be able to say, hey, lead the city and make these kind of decisions on budget items. And you've got the whole spectrum of people who don't have much money, and you need to consider that along with people who have a little more money. I don't think anybody in Grafton is really rich, but we do have people that are not as well off as others.
Yep. All right, great. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate that. Becky, last word. What is it you'd like to share with the voters before we conclude today?
Well, I appreciate that, Jim, that throw out there that, yes, I am willing to come on and serve. And I think he's exactly right. So long people say, well, this is what we need. You need to be doing this. You need to be doing that. But sometimes we have to go, hey, I need to jump in and help where I can. I might learn something. A lot of times when I've had these ideas for the city and they've said, no, we're not going to do that right now, and I didn't understand why, I thought, hey, if I serve on the city council, it'll help me to understand why we can't have these things, and maybe even avenues that could be researched so that we can have these things and do these things. And as somebody who's been a teacher for 24 years, I've been on the county library board here in Taylor County for the past 4 years, been living in the city for 33 years, and a parent and grandparent. I've heard it from many, many angles. And I think that what it has taught me is that we are probably one of the luckiest communities in North Central West Virginia, in that we have so much to build on. And the key would be for some people to be trying to get in there and help us preserve that past and still find a way to move into the future.
Great. All right. Well, Becky Bartlett, Jim Morgan, both running for the at-large seat on the Grafton City Council. Thanks to you both for coming on the program, and good luck in the election.
Thanks for having us on.
Well, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks.